In this video, we'll look at the note and rest symbols used for quavers and semiquaver durations. In the previous video, you may have noticed that the contemporary names for note durations are fractions, and that they sort of make sense. The half note is half the length of a whole note. The quarter note is half the length of a half note. The same pattern continues for the shorter and therefore faster note durations of eighth notes and 16th notes. Let's start the pulse and hear some quarter notes, some crotchets. Let's half the speed and double the duration, turning them into eighth notes. Let's do that again. Let's half the duration and double the speed, making them 16th notes. Whoa, that's getting a little bit quick. Let's break that down and see if we can make it a little easier to understand and add a bit more detail too. Let's start by hearing the eighth notes played against a pulse. A simple way to count these is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's hear that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's great. Now we can count and read eighth notes. But all those tails are getting a little hard to read, so let's see if we can tidy them up. We can group some of these together by removing their tails and replacing them with a beam instead. Of course, there are rules for how we have to group things together, but let's talk about that another time. For now, we're just going to beam them together into twos, so therefore they're into beat groups. Each group now has a number, which is known as the downbeat, and has an and, which is known as the upbeat. Naturally, these downbeats tend to have a stronger emphasis, so we can also call them strong beats. The upbeats tend to have a weaker emphasis, so we can call them weak beats. You may have noticed this when I was counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's look at an example that combines quarter note rests and eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or the other way round. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or how about a bit of a jumble? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Still can't see us getting in the charts with this, but at least we're learning something. Let's move on and have a little look at that eighth note rest symbol. Let's start off by placing an eighth note rest symbol on every downbeat so that we're only going to play on the ands. And just to make things a little more interesting, I'll play some chords on the piano instead. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Incidentally, this emphasis on the weaker beats is called syncopation, and you'll hear it a lot in music like reggae. We'll be looking at some more complicated examples of eighth note rests and eighth note rhythms in other videos, but for now, let's move on to the 16th notes. These 16th notes are going to be twice as fast as the eighth notes, and traditionally we'll call them semiquavers. They look similar to a quaver, but they have two tails, and as you can probably guess, when they group together, they have two beams, and the rests have two flags. Let's have a reminder of how they sound before we learn to count them. So, for our semiquavers or 16th notes, we have 4 of them per pulse or beat. We count them as 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, etc., etc. It can be a little bit of a tongue twister, especially at a fast speed. Let's count them against a pulse. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. That really is a bit of a tongue twister. For this video, we don't really need to explore the 16th notes any further. We'll look at them in more depth later on. Let's recap the note durations we've studied so far. The whole note, known as the semibreve. The half note, known as the minim. The quarter note, known as the crotchet. the 8th note known as the quaver, and the 16th note known as the semiquaver. Let's try playing those note durations against a pulse. You can either do this on an instrument or by clapping. Both examples will be here for you to play along with. We'll start with the semibreve, which lasts 4 beats, then double the speed every 4 beats until we reach the semiquavers. We'll then have a 4-beat rest and we'll do the process again. Okay, here we go after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Clapping this time. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Clap or instruments. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... And there we go, a little overview of note durations in 2 videos. The key to learning new skills is practice, practice, practice. So don't get downhearted if you didn't understand it or get it the first time. Just go back over the lessons and keep practicing. The more you practice the right things, the better you'll get.